ado, I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker today, Guila Clara Kessous. She's a UNESCO Artist for Peace, Peace Ambassador, and an executive coach using theatrical techniques to enhance corporate communications and help heal those who have suffered from prior trauma. She has worked with displaced population in Bangladesh, in Rwanda, as well as in Congo with Nobel Prize laureate Dr. Mukwege. As a teacher at the Harvard Carr Center for Human Rights Policies at Harvard Kennedy School, she created the course Theater and Human Rights and received the Derek Bok Center Award for Excellence in Teaching. As an executive coach, she developed specific training using role games and role play and Harvard negotiation techniques to enhance executive inner empowerment. Without further ado, Guila, come to the stage. A big round of applause, please.
Thank you, Kim, for this beautiful introduction. Hello, everybody. My name is Guila Clara Kessous, and I have only 12 minutes to convince you that art can make a great social impact. How will I do that? Well, easy. I'm going to try to talk about my work as a theater director, theater actor, theater producer, and I will try to show you how art can bring you to impact, okay? Working as an actor of nowadays society. Let's begin with my education. I began as a theater actress at the French Conservatory. So basically, I was a good actress in the French Conservatory. When I say good, it's never good enough. You know, when you are an actress, you need to fit to the director's fantasy in order to be engaged in the role, to be involved and to be hired, you know, and casting and everything. So I realized as an artist that, you know, being an actress is extremely passive. You need to wait until being chosen. And this is something that I learned very quickly about art, is that for art to have an impact, you need to act. You need to be active and not waiting for the producer to choose your art and give you magically some money in order for you to only do art. So I decided very quickly to use theatrical techniques to help people in need, people who were needing to express themselves, you know, victims of trauma, survivors of genocides. And I had fantasy, you know, to put especially survivors of the Rwanda genocide on stage in order to work against misinformation and in order to also do the catharsis of their suffering. And so I went to see some friends of my parents. They were producers of, you know, theater and movies. And I was telling them I'd love to do this type of show. And they were saying, and what is your budget? I was like, what is a budget? I've never heard about budget in the conservatory. Maybe it's a play that I did not read. So they said, well, go to learn. So I did a SEC business school, an MBA, in order to know about business plan. And I cried over financing and over accountability. But I decided to get till the end. And I got my MBA, and I became the producer of my own shows. And then I read a play that was amazing, a play that was called The Trial of God. The Trial of God is basically a play that put God into trial for what happened during World War II. And I was like, whoa, has been a survivor who wrote that? The very famous Nobel Peace Prize, Elie Wiesel. And Elie Wiesel wrote this play, and I was like, well, I need to write to this man. I need to wonder why a survivor is using theater in order to express themselves. And I sent him a letter, like we send, you know, a bottle in the sea, a message in the bottle. And I was sure not to receive an answer, but guess what? A month later, I received an answer. And he said, well, not only that I would be very happy to have you interviewing me, but I wrote many plays. But everybody don't consider me being a playwright, so I give those plays to you. And I was like, whoa. And in the letter, it was written, do you want to do a PhD with me about this? I was like, yeah, do I want? Obviously I want. So I went to Boston University, and I worked 7 years on how theater can help survivors of genocides. And then after I've done degree at Paris Descartes University, which is the University of Medicine, in order to better understand, it was crossed with St. Anne Hospital, in order to better understand how drama therapy, art therapy, could help people who are sick. So then I traveled a lot. I went to Rwanda, Congo was mentioned. I worked with Dr. Mukwege in order to work with women victims of sexual assaults, using theater to help them during the catharsis of what they went through. And Harvard University invited me to teach this class, Theater and Human Rights. When I came to Harvard, I was very excited, of course, but also very tired, almost on the verge of a burnout. I received so many testimonies of suffering that I was not prepared. I've never done psychology, so I didn't know how to preserve myself. And when you're teaching at Harvard, you can take whatever class for free. And it's so expensive that you take a class, I'm telling you. So I went through the catalog and I saw this very interesting class about happiness, a class on positive psychology, and I took it as a good French with a lot of criticism, very sarcastic. I was sure it would not teach me anything. But guess what? I discovered positive psychology, very interesting discipline based on scientific approach. And so basically at the end of the class, I went to this very famous professor of happiness at Harvard called Tal Ben-Shahar, and I thanked him. I said, now I know how to preserve myself. And so he said, well, you explain me what you're doing. It's very nice, but it's not by giving the chance to only people who have suffered to express themselves that you will change the world. If you want a social transformation, you need to go where people decide the rest of the world, which means, of course, go to companies, to institutions, to collectivities. You need to become a coach. And then I became a coach. He was the one to bring me to this Institute of Coaching. And in 2012, Nobel Peace Prize Elie Wiesel recommended me to become UNESCO Artist for Peace, which is basically a honorific title, which means I don't get any money from UNESCO, but which allow me to use this beautiful network of UNESCO. So I'd like to, of course, mention my inspiration, Elie Wiesel, Malala Yousafzai, that I had the chance to meet, and Dr. Mukwege. And of course, I'd like to mention, as the art of coaching, those 4 people who really changed my life: Tal Ben-Shahar, William Ury, who is a master of negotiation. He's the one creating the win-win negotiation. Paul Ekman, a master in emotional intelligence, and a French woman, Dr. Edith Perrault-Pierre, a military doctor, who invented this process, the TOP, technique for optimization of the potential in order to reduce stress. Those are my little secrets as an artist in order to have a social impact. So I had the chance, of course, to meet a lot of good people, I would say, Simone Weil, the Pope, Dalai Lama, in order to use art, use my art of expressing myself in order to better understand how to better live together. And I will explain you that once you see my personal cartography. This personal cartography, I got it because of Ikigai. I'm sure everybody knows the famous Ikigai methodology. So you see, I mix artistic, which is my identity, with all the 3 other spheres. Transmission, with, of course, teaching that I need. Coaching, which is another way to use theater to help people. And then humanitarian, that is, for me, really part of what is needed in order for me to be completed. So this is what pure artistic process taught me in terms of impact. I've done more than 30 performances, 46 audio books. This is something that I love to do. You know, you record a book from A to Z in English and in French. So I've been producing, directing, and acting. These are my recommendations regarding act for impact. So the mention, I would say, is beauty shall not be a pretext not to be socially engaged. I think today artists, in order to have its space in the society, needs to get rid of this notion of, pure beauty. On the contrary, pure beauty is coming and will sometimes even heal other people. So as an actor, I understood the principle of obedience, and each artist has this principle of obedience. What is it? To be aligned with what you hear in terms of little voice within yourself. To be authentic with your values. When you're an actor, you need to follow the director. you need to follow the director. Even if sometimes, artistically speaking, you will not do the same thing, you will not do the same choice, but as an actor, follow the director. As a director, understand the difference between leading and managing. Sometimes you need to be leading, showing the way, having a followership. Sometimes you need to manage in order to check the link in between actors. So basically, being a director is really being a leader. And of course, as a producer, understanding the global vision. Where is that going? When you invest money, try to understand the vision of the artist, especially when you are not the artist. The second bubble is transmission. Transmission is all about courses. Kim mentioned it, Harvard University, different department, Kennedy School, Faculty of Arts and Sciences, Boston University Political Science Institute. In order to have an impact, it was very important for me to get this notion, art of transmission, in what makes us humbly human. And when I'm with students, always having the principle of giving the little knowledge I have, but a lot of acceptance of learning from my students. And as an artist, the art of communication is really this notion of communion. And this is something, of course, that we will find also as the art of coaching. The art of coaching is what makes us interdependent. So art to help, training, a lot of, I would say, a lot of my clients, public sector, I have lots of private sector, I have lots of one-to-one coaching. So the training, a lot of time, people ask me for situational intelligence. What is situational intelligence? Basically, it's the art of improv. I'm sure you heard about the VUCA world. You heard of the VUCA world? The VUCA world is all about this uncertain world. And today, CEOs are dying to know what to do if anything that we cannot predict is happening. Well, the art of improv can definitely help. So situational intelligence is what I'm doing when I don't know. So it's really the reflexes. And this could be, of course, used with the art of improv. Coaching, helping the other to be empowered, and then, of course, revealing the sense of purpose of the other. And then I just want to mention the fourth bubble, the humanitarian, with this notion of artivism. Have you heard of artivism before? This is the combination between art and activism. Artist and activist, putting together is artivism. So I'm doing artivism, working in refugee camps in Bangladesh with the Rohingya population, working with those women who are victims of excisions. So art therapy, drama therapy is really for me a way to do art for peace building. And these are, I would say, the tools that I can give you, art as an enabler for healing and social cohesion, contributing to consolidating a culture of peace. So I mentioned already the catharsis, using the other to emotionally release the tension, art of resilience as well, and then, of course, this notion of unity that we get in art. For example, when you're at school and you have students working together in order to create an artistic piece, you see this amazing co-elaboration with collective intelligence. And since we are not a lot, I will just reveal a very important fact. In terms of humanitarian, I'm in charge of International Women's Rights Day, and you see the poster here. You see very nice people, First Lady of Iceland, or the First Lady of Greece, Amma, Prince of Benin. And of course, the World Art Day. World Art Day is a way at UNESCO that we are trying to understand what is the content of art linked to social and linked to healing. So I've done it last year with World Health Organization in order to understand the benefits of art. And I'd like to finish that because you will see how art can make us very unique. And I'm not saying that as an artist, I'm just saying that we are all artists because we all have our way to communicate. And so with coaching, with humanitarian, with transmission, and with art, this is what I've done. I decided to create feminist alliances. So I simply went and knocking on the door of different governments. I began with the feminist version of the Abraham Accords. So I went and knocked at the different governments, you see, Emirates and Morocco and Bahrain and Israel, and I asked the governments to give me women in order to sign the equivalent, the feminist equivalent of the Abraham Accords. Not only about women's rights, but helping women to be more at the table of negotiation, in order to have what we are calling feminist diplomacy. And guess what? They signed it in April 2023, got together, tried to understand how can we also trying to be part of this social game that is negotiation, not only thinking about women's rights in the area, but also thinking about deep topics such as how to stop wars and how to reduce inequalities. Of course, happened what happened, October 7th, so I decided to work also with African Accords for Feminist Diplomacy, and here are the women that I approached in order to sign an agreement on feminist diplomacy, in order to have more women as role models to help being more involved in political areas. And what we see is that we have 54 countries in Africa, and then slowly but surely I'll get to 10. So to conclude, because I know that we are here also to share methodology, I'd like to mention this methodology that Alex Osborne used to give, this CQFD methodology. See, when you're creating, when you want to be your own artist and give to the world, don't censor yourself. Write that, have a little notebook, write all the ideas you can have. Q for quantity over quality. Do not think that what is coming up out of your head is only bullshit. It's all about trying to get a very numerous ideas at the same time. F for farfelu. Farfelu is this French adjective that means wild and fanciful and unexpected. Don't, again, be worried about something that should be realistic. And then the D is for demultiplication, in order to be really in that stage of being simply inspired. And this is what I really hope that you will get after our talk, being inspired to be sure that you too, each of you, have something to do with arts, because you're all artists without knowing it. I thank you very much for your active listening.